Welcome to the Severe Weather Information Session. My name is Chris Fletcher. I'm your Public Affairs Director. We're live in the thread right now to answer all your questions in real time. For the best listening experience, we recommend using earbuds. This previously recorded information session is intended to provide you valuable information you'll need in case of a severe weather emergency, especially hurricanes. I'm joined by our Fort Stewart Garrison Commander, Colonel Mark Austin, our on and off post emergency managers, thank you, emergency family assistance center manager, and personnel accountability manager to answer your questions and to prepare and recover from a storm if we need to. With that, I'd like to introduce Colonel Austin for his opening comments.
Good evening, teammates, family, and friends of Fort Stewart-Hunter Army Airfield. I'm your Garrison Commander, Colonel Mark Austin. Tomorrow kicks off National Preparedness Month, and I cannot think of a better way to start the month than with our annual Severe Weather Information Session. Here today we have representatives from our Plans, Training, Mobilization, and Security Team and Liberty County Emergency Management. We'll also have short presentations from the Garrison Human Resources, Army Community Services, and Resource Management. Doesn't matter if you have lived here for only a few short months or your entire life. This information is important, and I want to thank you for participating. Also, I hope you have had an opportunity to visit our hurricane and severe weather page, which is located on the Fort Stewart website. The annual Atlantic hurricane season runs from 1 June through 30 November. Over the past several years, the National Hurricane Center has predicted above average seasons. This year was forecasted to be below average. However, earlier this month, the National Hurricane Center changed its prediction and raised the outlook to above normal. This year's prediction reflects a 60% probability in above normal season, predicting 14 to 21 named storms, 6 to 11 hurricanes, and 2 to 5 major storms. Since 2016, Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield have been impacted by 1 tropical storm, 4 hurricanes, and 1 EF1 tornado, incurring in excess of $4 million in damages to the installation. 2 of those 4 storms, Tropical Storm Hermine and Hurricane Matthew in 2016, hit both installations, fortunately resulting only in minor infrastructure damages and localized flooding. Both Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield were evacuated for Hurricane Matthew. We were fortunate in 2017 that Hurricane Irma's path shifted northwest and actually moved over our neighboring installation, Fort Moore. In 2019, Hurricane Dorian, and in 2020, Hurricane Isaias both moved far enough off the Georgia coastline to not bring any severe weather or damages. However, Dorian did cause Fort Stewart and Hunter Army Airfield, as well as our coastal counties, to take evacuation measures ordered by both the governor and senior commander. Last year was a great opportunity to practice our severe weather plan with Hurricane Ian, but ultimately there was no impact to our areas as the storm hit South and North Carolina. Let's talk about what currently is taking place. As we are recording this on August 24th, there are 3 disturbances in the Atlantic, with 1 named Tropical Storm Franklin. This tropical storm should have no effect to the U.S., and the other 2 systems are too early to predict at this time, but not too early to plan for. Historically, September through November are the busiest months during hurricane season. Therefore, we cannot become complacent about personal and family preparation. We have been extremely fortunate over the last 8 years, however. It only takes 1 storm to create damages, take lives, and cause major infrastructural damage to our community that could take years to rebuild. We'll get started with an overview of what actions you should take before, during, and after a hurricane. We'll start with our installation emergency manager, Bo Bradley, with what we should be doing now prior to a hurricane being forecasted. Bo discusses actions to take now before a hurricane is forecasted. Bob from Liberty County Emergency Management discusses community actions.
Hey, thank you, sir. Now, Bo and Bobby, if you don't mind introducing yourselves.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bo Bradley, working with DPTMS, and I'm your installation emergency manager.
My name is Bob Dodd. I'm the director for Liberty County Emergency Management.
Thanks, Bob. Hey, Bo, so what do you got to tell us about hurricanes?
Hurricane season. It happens here in southeast Georgia. One of the big things that I've been working hard on over the last couple of years is preparing the families. The soldiers are going to be able to get the information in real time, but sometimes our spouses and families need to be ready. So we encourage you to pay attention to the U.S. Army Garrison social media platforms, maybe even buy a weather radio, watch the weather on the news, and stay connected to what's going on in the community, because our installation works really hard to communicate to our soldiers and families.
Thanks, Bo. Bob, what do you got?
So just to echo what Bo said, so we know a lot of family members live out on side of Liberty County that are stationed here at Fort Stewart, and we want to assure them that we work closely with Bo. He's in our Emergency Operations Center in case a storm is coming in, and we're making decisions on a joint effort so everybody is informed at the same time.
Great. And you had mentioned evacuation zones. Want to talk about that?
So we do have evacuation zones in Liberty County. So we have two zones. You got Zone A and Zone B, and it's pretty much Barrington Ferry, 17. East of that is Zone A. The rest of the county would be Zone B. If you don't know your zone, just call our office, and we'll be more than happy to show you what zone you live in, and then that way it makes you better prepared and when a storm is coming.
Yeah, that's super important to know since, most 70% of our population lives actually off the installation. So thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. So now we're going to transition to some videos from our agencies throughout Fort Stewart, and we're going to go to Bill Jeffers talking about how you can recoup your costs after the evacuation.
Hey, Rock of the Marne. I'm Bill Jeffers, your garrison comptroller. The threat of hurricanes in our area is real and is something we should plan for. We've evacuated to safe havens 3 times in the past 7 years. If a hurricane heads our way and the commanding general signs an evacuation order and you live in a mandatory evacuation zone, the Army will reimburse you for travel expenses and lodging if you stay in a commercial hotel. So if you live on post, you'll follow the orders of the commanding general. If you live off post, you follow the orders of the county management agency for your county. Now, you may ask, how do I know if I live in a mandatory evacuation zone? And the answer is, you'll know. They saturate the airwaves, TV, radio. You'll get a message on your cell phone. You'll see it on Facebook. And they'll say something like, everybody east of I-95. Or they may say, all of the coastal counties, Liberty, Chatham, Bryan, etc. It'll be well publicized. If ordered to evacuate, you'll have your choice of where to find safe haven within 300 to 500 miles, depending on the direction and the severity of the storm. Now, you say 500 miles, that's a long way. And you're right, but what happens sometime is a hurricane will come through the Caribbean and it'll come all the way up the coast of Florida to our area. Where do you think all those people from Florida go? Well, they come here and they take up all the available hotel rooms, and so you may have to go a little further to find a safe haven, but we want to make sure that you're reimbursed for wherever you have to go to find shelter. We'll do all the paperwork for your reimbursement when you get back. We'll open up voucher centers at the Main Post Chapel on Fort Stewart and Building 1286 on Hunter Army Airfield. The evacuation packet for reimbursement has 3, maybe 4 pieces of paper. The first form is DD 1610. It's a 1-page form. That's your travel authorization. That lists where you're going and your family members. The second piece of paper is a 1351-2. That's your voucher. So that'll list you and your family members and where you went, how many miles it was to your safe haven. The third form is a DFAS form that has your bank account information, your bank account number, your bank routing number. They need this because when they send you your reimbursement, they're going to send it through electronic funds transfer. There's no paper checks that are going to be cut for reimbursement. And the fourth piece of paper, if you stay in a commercial hotel, is your hotel receipt. So whoever's name is at the top of the receipt is who's going to get reimbursed for the lodging expenses. Soldiers will file their voucher in DTS, but the spouse and all the family members will file their voucher with us on paper and use the forms that we just talked about. So if the soldier pays for the hotel, the soldier's name's going to be on the receipt. They're going to file the hotel lodging reimbursement receipt with their voucher in DTS. If the spouse pays for the hotel, their name's going to be up here. They will file it with their paper voucher at the voucher center. So all this applies to soldiers, soldier family members, DA civilians, DA civilian family members, really anybody who's listed in DEERS. A couple other things. I don't need to see gas receipts or food receipts from restaurants because per diem is going to pay for your food and mileage is going to pay for your gas. And that's all calculated based on where you evacuated to. Now, if you have pets, you should take them with you, but the Army will not reimburse for pet expenses. For example, I take my dog to a hotel. The hotel charges a $50 pet fee per night. That's good. You had a safe place to be with your pet, but the Army won't reimburse that part of your hotel receipt. Only family members listed in DEERS will be reimbursed. Children or family members 12 years old and older will receive full per diem. Any children under 12 will receive half a day's per diem per day. So let's say that you evacuate and you take your neighbor with you. That's good because they're safe, but if they're not listed in DEERS, we're not going to get reimbursed for your neighbors. If you have a big family and you drive 2 cars, you can claim 2 cars. The soldier would claim 1 car on his or her voucher, and the spouse would claim the other car on their paper voucher. If you have damage to your household or the food in your refrigerator spoils, then you'll have to notify your insurance company for that. That's not part of this reimbursement. I got a question recently about a family care plan. So let's say the children evacuate, but they're not with their parents. They're with the family care provider. That's no problem. In that case, the oldest child's name will go on the top of the voucher. And if they have brothers and sisters, they'll be listed further down on the voucher. But they will also get reimbursement for travel and per diem. We here in this office, we've done thousands of vouchers without a problem. So evacuate safely, and when you come back, come see me at one of the voucher centers and we'll take care of you. If you have questions before then, you can call me here at the office. My number is 912-767-2133. Again, I'm Bill Jeffers. I'll be glad to answer your questions. We're well trained in evacuation voucher procedures, and we'll be able to help you. And we pray that you and your family have a safe hurricane season. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Mr. Snell with Human Resources to talk about AdPass.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. My name is Don Snell, and I'm with the Directorate of Human Resources, and I am your Garrison AdPass COR. Some of you may wonder what AdPass is. AdPass is the Army's Disaster Accountability and Assessment System. It's a system where you go in a time of a natural disaster or a man-made disaster to account for you and your family. It is a web-based program, and there are several ways that you can account for you and your family in those times. One is you can go to the website and account for yourself. You'll log in using your Army.mil account and the last four of your social security number and date of birth is how you log into the website. And if you're in the affected area, it will just follow the instructions to account for you and your family. If you're not in the affected area, it will inform you that you're not in the affected area and there's no need to account for you and your family. The other options is if you have an iPhone or Android, there are instructions on the Third ID homepage. Go down to the severe weather tab, and you can use your iPhone or Android to account for yourself as well. If there's no power, you can call the AdPass help desk and choose option number 6, and you can account for you and your family that way as well. When you're accounting for yourself, it's not only for yourself, but you have to account for yourself and your family members. If not, the system, we cannot close out an event unless yourself and all your families are accounted for. And it's very important to keep your information updated in AdPass with current addresses, phone numbers, so that you can get the alerts as an event occurs. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Mr. Krupp, going to talk to us from Army Community Services about the Emergency Family Action Center, Assistance Center.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Appreciate that. My name is Mr. Jim Krupp, and I'm the ACS Mobilization and Deployment Program Manager, or we refer to it as MDSSO. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Emergency Family Assistance Center, or the EFAC for short. So historically in this area, if you've lived here for any period of time, you know that we happen to get a lot of weather activities, specifically hurricanes. That's one of our #1 threats here in this area, outside of cyber threats and things of that nature. So when we have a weather emergency, if the senior commander gives an evacuation order, which has happened several times in the past 6 or 7 years, everybody on the installation will be required to evacuate and go to a safe location. That's here at Fort Stewart as well as at Hunter Army Airfield, depending on what the senior commander decides. Once the emergency's over, the weather's passed, and we go to get back to normal business, we go on what's called recovery operations. That means that people will come back and they will start making sure that the roads are clear, homes are safe to go back into, businesses will be able to be utilized with power, everything that takes to make sure that the installation is safe and secure for soldiers and families. Make sure everybody can get back to business as usual. When that happens, though, we also understand historically that there's going to be a lot of situations where people are going to need assistance. And instead of having everybody go to multiple places on the installation to try to seek common assistance, because many people will have the same sort of needs, what happens is the garrison commander, based on the recommendation from my boss, Mr. Lukens, who's the ACS director, the garrison commander will make a decision to stand up the EFAC, the Emergency Family Assistance Center. This is basically a one-stop shop to where everybody, this can be active duty, retirees, DOD civilians, family members, be it at the Fort Stewart or the Hunter Army Airfield community, they come to the EFAC so that they can receive the assistance that they might need or the information that they might need. So we work in conjunction with PAO for messaging to make sure that we put updated messaging information out there. And then we provide a wide range of services. So basically every garrison agency or program or directorate is going to be represented in the EFAC to be able to serve soldiers and families as they come in. Here at Fort Stewart, the EFAC is going to be located in the Main Post Chapel, which is right across the street from the main PX or caddy corner to Burger King. So if there's ever a weather emergency or any other type of emergency, and you hear that the EFAC has been activated and you want to know where it's at, here at Fort Stewart, it's always going to be at the Main Post Chapel. That information we put out on the social media platforms, the chains of command will have that information, and when the EFAC is stood up by the order of the garrison commander, everybody, soldiers and families, retirees, DoD civilians, will be able to come to that one-stop shop and receive the services, information, and assistance that they need. In the event that the main post chapel is not available, the alternate location here at Fort Stewart is Building 87, which is part of ACS main headquarters location. And we are right across the street from the main post PX near Starbucks. If you happen to be on Hunter Army Airfield, your EFAC is going to be Building 1286, which is the ACS headquarters there where the ID card section is, and that is also located right across the street from the Hunter Army Airfield main PX. So we'd like to have this information out, make sure everybody's aware of that. We hope that we don't have a bad weather season, but we know from historical precedents that that's very possible, and we want to make sure that we're all prepared and know where to go to receive the support and assistance and the information that we need. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here in Building 87, again, part of ACS headquarters, and happy to assist and look forward to seeing you in the event that we are in the EFAC. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Jim. We're now going to open it up for questions. So this question is actually for Bo or Bob. When should we start getting ready to get our go bag ready?
Right now. The biggest thing that I could say is always have a go bag ready. You can get checklists from our office, or you can go to www.ready.army.mil and you can find checklists for the items to put in your go bag. Just get it ready, put it in a corner, know where it is, and then get ready to grab if you have to evacuate.
Yeah, like Bo said, it's never too early to start your go bag. I mean, you can do it every year and then just update it and make sure everything's not expired, and then you got it and you know where it is.
Anything to recommend for putting in the go bag?
I would definitely recommend bottles of water, maybe some batteries, cash money, and items for children, coloring books, crayons, and some little snacks, crackers, maybe a couple juice bottles, etc. And maps. Everybody has a digital app and on their cell phone, but sometimes the cell phone towers go down. So go buy an old school map. It might help.
Is that why we would also want to use cash? I mean, a lot of people don't even know what cash is.
Great point, Chris. When the power goes down, your ATMs go down. So we always recommend cash money. $50, maybe $100 could help.
And to add on what Bo said, you know, that's all good in the to-go bag. But one thing that we like to emphasize is prescription medication. People take medication, you know, talk to your doctor, maybe get a longer supply of your medication. And your animals, your pets, make sure you have shot records or medicine that your animals take. So that's a good thing to add to your to-go bag also.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, that's great information. And I know that we'll probably get comments about getting prescriptions from Wynn. You know, so luckily for us, when we do have an evacuation order or do get notice that we're going to be having a severe weather event, we do typically get regional release for prescriptions. So I'm sure Wynn can make that sound a lot better than I just did, but thanks. Bo, we got a question from Georgia Brackett. She asks, for those of us that live in on-post housing, is there anything we can or should do to protect our house and belongings? Also, what is the potential evacuation protocol?
Hey, great question, Georgia. Thanks for the question. If you live in housing, you always want to take an opportunity to police up garden tools, maybe trampolines, basketballs. Police them up, try to get them secured. And specifically for Fort Stewart or Hunter Army Airfield, if you live on post, you will follow the evacuation directive given by our senior commander. We are nested with the governor's office and 3rd Infantry Division Operations Center, so we know when the senior commander is thinking about issuing an evacuation order. But once that is given, that is the effective order to evacuate Fort Stewart or Hunter Army Airfield.
Thanks, Bo. Anything?
So as far as Liberty County, so if we have evacuation order, and like Bo said, we're in constant communication, so we're on the same sheet of music. But we use the Schumann Center on James Brown Park. That'll be our evacuation point, where you follow us on Facebook or we put it on our social media on the Fort Stewart page. That's where we'll evacuate from, and we'll have school buses and take you to inland county to a safe shelter.
Great. Okay. So, Bo, this is a question from Molly. It says, if an active duty soldier lives off post with their family and the evacuation order is issued, do they follow the evacuation orders issued by the installation or the orders issued by the county that they live in?
Hey, Molly, great question. So this brings up the complexities of having 70% of our soldiers and families living in the surrounding areas. So if the local county where the soldier actually lives issues the evacuation order before the senior commander, we encourage the soldier to follow the direction of the county that they live in, keep in contact with their chain of command, because generally speaking, maybe the county issues the order before the senior commander, and that's happened in the past. So we want the soldiers to follow the directions of the county that they live in, but keep in contact with their chain of command.
Thanks, Bo. Anything to add, Bob?
And we've done, since I've been here, we've done 2 evacuations, and we've always coordinated, hey, we're going to issue a evacuation. Same thing with Bo, hey, we're going to order evacuation, and it's all on the same sheet of music.
You bring up a great point, because we're pretting nested
We are.
with Liberty County, with Chatham, with Bryan, right? I mean, so
Yes, sir.
we're almost habitating with them and just
Yes, sir.
hanging out in their EOC, they're in our EOC. We're
So
talking
one
to
of
them
the
all
things
time,
that one of the things that we try to do is give the senior commander the best common operating picture. So Liberty County, Bryan County, Chatham County, we're all in communication with our installation EOC to try to give the senior commander that best common operating picture. Stuff happens. Maybe the county mayor will jump the gun and issue the order, but we do communicate with each other during these situations.
Great, okay. So I have a question now for Bill Jeffers. I know questions were asked about retirees being reimbursed because of an evacuation, but what about the retirees that are living on Hunter Army Airfield? When the evacuation is ordered and they have to evacuate, will they be reimbursed? My dad is a retired service member, and my parents live on Hunter Army Airfield.
Retirees are not part of this reimbursement program. This reimbursement program applies to active duty soldiers, active duty soldier family members, current DA civilians, and DA civilian family members. Now, if retirees live on Hunter Army Airfield, they have to follow the orders of the commanding general and or Chatham County Commission. Hunter is in Chatham County, so, and it's east of 95. So if the county evacuates Chatham or everybody east of 95, they'll have to evacuate because they'll be in a mandatory evacuation zone, but they're not part of this reimbursement program.
Thanks, Bill. Great answer. This is a question for Jim Krupp, and it's, can retirees go to the Emergency Family Assistance Center or just active duty?
That's a great question, and we get asked that a lot because traditionally we think about active duty and the family members in the military community, but that's what it is. It's a military community, and absolutely retirees are fully entitled to use all of the services at ACS, to include the EFAC. So if you're a retiree and you need to come to the EFAC, you are more than welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Bob, this is a question for you. It's, does Liberty County have an alert like SEMA in Bullitt County in order to receive text messages?
Yeah, so we have what they call Alert Liberty. It's through our mass notification, and if you need help signing up for it, you can call our office or give us your address through this right here, and we will reach out to you. But yes, we do.
Outstanding. This is a question for both Bob and Bo. From prior evacuations, can you talk about any great lessons learned? Like, for example, what to pack, keeping receipts, fueling up now versus later, and traffic on certain routes.
So when you evacuate, you want to take three days. What we usually tell them: change of clothes, make sure you got your bags, and you're keeping all your belongings together. Once you get to evacuation, a Red Cross shelter, you're going to come back with pillows, blankets, so a little bit more stuff. So just be prepared for that right there. It's not, you're going to be sleeping on a more than likely a cot, and you have 40 square feet of space. So it's not a hotel. It is a shelter. So let's be prepared for that. Keep an eye on your stuff.
with pets as well, or?
So with pets, we can evacuate with pets, and you can take them to a shelter. We just need to know, but what we can't evacuate you with a pet unless it's in a cage and has its shot records, up-to-date shot records. So this is the time when we always talking about preparedness. This is the time to get that stuff, your records in preparedness right now.
Bo?
A couple of the lessons learned from previous years is spouses, sometimes they got to be ready to evacuate without their soldier. Their soldiers may be deployed in school, TDY, so families, you got to be prepared to evacuate without your soldier. And the other lesson learned, single soldiers. Yes, if the senior commander orders an evacuation, that includes you, regardless if you live in the barracks. So if you don't have transportation, we can help with that because we have 200 beds at Fort Moore and we have 200 beds at Fort Eisenhower specifically for single soldiers.
So just real quick, Bo, if you could talk about the traffic patterns, because I think they differ just a little bit when we actually have to evacuate.
That's a good point. So when a senior commander orders an evacuation, Bryan County and Georgia Department of Transportation reverses Interstate 16 and it becomes contraflow. So instead of 2 lanes going northwest towards Macon, you actually have 4. So historically what has happened is the state of Florida will have their evacuation order first. We're still trying to figure out the common operating picture, looking at the weather models, but then all of a sudden South Carolina evacuates. So there's a run on evacuees. So the interstates are very crowded. So, you know, you have to be prepared for an evacuation. Now, when we bring families back to Fort Stewart-Hunter Army Airfield, there's multiple routes. And off the top of my head, I don't have them, but there is a graphic that you will see. So the red routes that you see on the return map are open, and then the black routes are the Georgia Department of Transportation routes along with the Fort Stewart routes.
Thanks, Bo. Cleared that right up for me. So this next question is for you, Bo, and it is, how will soldiers that live in the barracks be evacuated in the case of an order?
So single soldiers, you can get a battle buddy that has a vehicle, and you follow the evacuation order as well on I-16 going northwest. But if you need transportation, you will go to your brigade headquarters, get on a bus, and go to either Fort Moore or Fort Eisenhower.
Great. Okay. And Bob, so what if the spouse or the family doesn't have transportation to leave the neighborhood they live in? How do they go about it?
So they would meet at the
Schumann
Center, or if they need route, they just need a car office, and then we can make arrangements for them to get from their house to the Schumann Center, and then we'll put them on. We have the Board of Education gives us buses, and then they get on a bus. We'll manifest them on a bus, and then we'll send them in.
Okay. So, folks, you know, this is great commentary here, but if you've got questions that need to be answered, go ahead and drop them in the thread. Bo, question for you. What civilian employees are deemed essential when it comes to evacuating?
Great question. So have that conversation with your first line supervisor because you are identified as mission essential according to your position description.
Yeah. Bob, you talked about pets in the shelter briefly, but Bo, what do we do with our pets?
We encourage you to take them with you when you evacuate. In the 2023 Severe Weather Guide, we have a little checklist, and we even have some pointers on how to transport the pets with you in your vehicle when you have to evacuate.
Great, thanks. So, Bo, we have a question from FC Dole, and the question is, what is the safest room or closet in the new Ganem housing area in case a tornado is imminent?
Oh, FC, great question. So, housing here in Georgia doesn't have basements, so what we recommend is that you go to either the most centrally located room and protect yourself, or go to the bathroom and get into the tub if you know that a tornado is coming in.
Thanks, Bo. Hey, I think that's about all the time we've got for today, so, sir, do you have any closing comments?
Just a couple final thoughts. A reminder, the garrison directors and our team are online answering your questions, and will continue to do so for the next couple of days. For additional information or clarification, direct questions to your chain of command and monitor our official social media sites. Much of what was discussed is accessible on your phone. Go get the digital Garrison app. It's easy to use, free to download, and full of great information. Finally, remember to develop a plan, discuss this plan with your loved ones, and be prepared this severe weather season.